Okay, so the aims of the task force, there are three main aims: make the society a welcoming place for members from marginalised and minoritized groups and promote their engagement, promote diversity and inclusion within the professions and disciplines of psychology through increasing entry of underrepresented groups and ensuring training reflects diversity and meets the needs of diverse groups, advising on the most effective form and function of a permanent body, reporting through the Board of Trustees to monitor and advise on equality, diversity and inclusion, and advise on appropriate measures to monitor the impact of the implementations ongoing. And so part of that first aim, making the society more welcoming, we've made several free webinars. And so these are the topics beginning to talk about diversity and inclusion in neuropsychology, talking about diversity amongst LGBT+ people, decolonising the curriculum, talking about intellectual disability and double discrimination, exploring barriers to men talking about their mental health and identifying future directions, talking about class in psychology, the seen and the unseen. Class is not one of the protected characteristics, but we haven't stopped there. We've thought, consider anything that needs considering, really, and we think that this is one that does need considering as well.
Some people might have seen there was a kind of ongoing part of the class discussion in the BPS conference this year, where we had like a panel sort of discussion about that. And there are some people at the BPS who are working on changing that to try and include it in the Equalities Act, because it's something that has a big impact in terms of marginalisation. So I guess we've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
Back to you, Sue.
Tackling racism across psychological professions. And there's bits in there which I think are also relevant to decolonising the curriculum as well. Challenging disability, embracing human diversity. That has happened, but the recording isn't out yet, I don't think. But it should be, you will be able to find it on this main webinar page where the link is there. So you'll have the slides afterwards.
And I think at some point they're going to be on the virtual learning environment as well.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
So all of them will be on the BLE as well within the next couple of months. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, yeah.
So carrying on with task force aims, is this still me?
This is the second aim, isn't it?
Second aim, yeah. So linking up with the editorial team of the psychologists, it has increased its coverage of a range of diversity issues. I think there have been some fantastic coverage actually in recent months. Linking with the BPS accreditation committees, reviewing the standards for courses, mainly undergraduate, but the ultimate aim is to look across different programs, and actually there's a huge number of programs that I was astonished at how many programs the BPS actually accredits. So that's quite a major task. Some input into the website redevelopment group to help keep EDI in consideration as the redesign plan is drawn up, and regular engagement with the BPS Board of Trustees and senior management.
So I guess that's my job, to make sure that the Board of Trustees and senior management are praised. And obviously we have a couple of senior managers who sit with us on the task force, which has really been helpful in terms of making the changes. And I suppose the other thing is that the BPS at the moment is going through other changes as well that will make the work of inclusion much easier to do in the future. Let's keep going. I think we've got more to say, but let's keep going.
Okay. So promoting diversity and inclusion within disciplines and professions. So we're working at linking together all the member groups active in EDI work into an effective coalition, because it's a bit fragmented. It's been a bit fragmented. There's lots of people doing great things, but we want to try and get it all joined up so that people can share and learn from each other. And yeah, and developing a plan to gather information about what different universities are doing about decolonising the curriculum, with a view to bringing good practice together. So I want to just say a little bit about decolonising. So decolonising psychology, decolonising our minds. So it's not just about the curriculum, it's also about ensuring equity of access and progression. And it's about our own personal awareness of our lived experience and what we were taught. Because we weren't always taught the best. Some of us oldies weren't always taught we were taught the sort of Western colonial version of psychology, which is still largely around and affecting everything.
I suppose this idea, Sue, and I'll hand back to you in a minute, but this idea about decolonizing our minds is kind of something that I think is really important, because actually there's quite a lot of evidence, isn't there, that most psychologists were taught in a particular, in the UK, were taught in a particular way about particular things. And if you wanted to find out something different, you have to go off and do your own research, and reading and thinking. And actually, it's quite hard to move from that position because everything supports that. So it's quite a big change that we need to make.
Yeah. And so the BPS lead for decolonizing work for that work stream is Helen Cockle, the Diversity Inclusion and Communications Officer, and that's her email, so you can contact her. The task force has a working definition of decolonizing, so it asks us to reflect on our assumptions about how the world is and to reposition the legacies of Western colonialism and empire around knowledge, education, and professions in order to diversify the existing framework and ensure psychology encompasses and reflects a more inclusive curriculum. It's an approach that will lead to diversity and change and prompt psychology to examine all of our professional practices and influences. And I want to go on to just provide a couple of examples, particularly in relation to the curriculum.